At Alzheimer's Australia WA, I've had the fortunate experience in the past 2 years of working in this space. I get paid to talk. Here is a definition of what I use in my line of work around dementia-friendly communities. So it's a place where people living with dementia are supported to live a high quality of life with meaning, purpose and value. And I think when we look at those three things, meaning, purpose and value, and we relate it to the conversation we just had, you wouldn't have said things that didn't have meaning. Every one of you that shared your favourite movie, that's got a special meaning to you. You don't just go, oh, what was the last thing I saw at the cinema? Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange. Yeah. No. You always convey a message with everything that you say. And I think when we enable people living with dementia to have a voice in the community, we are enabling them to have an autonomous and a successful relationship with the community. So what does dementia-friendly communities mean other than this definition? It can be involving businesses and organisations, like the ones you belong to that have given you permission to come here today. It can involve volunteers, it can involve carers, both professional and non-professional. It can involve sporting clubs and social clubs. It can involve the physical environment, so the things that we can see and feel around us. And it also can provide opportunities to be heard. So all that warm, fuzzy stuff that we don't quite know how to put into words as well. WA, where are we at with dementia-friendly communities? Well, we started 2 years ago. We held a series of consultations. Technology. We held a series of consultations because we're not in the position to know exactly what's needed. The community is. So the 13 consultations that we held out in the community were to find out what the voice of people living with dementia were saying. What was it they needed? What did they want? What did they see as the gaps? What could they identify? And for me, that was the most liberating experience because we went to not only metro areas, but we went to not all regional areas, but we did go outside of the metropolitan area. And for me, that was really astounding because in those areas, they don't have all the services and the resources we have in the metropolitan area. But what they did have, they had community and they had spirit. I had one gentleman in Northern tell me that if he won lotto, because I phrased one of the questions like that. I said, look, if you had a Powerball, what would you do with it for people living with dementia? And he said, oh, well, my mate has a really big property just a few k's out of town, and we're going to build a facility and we'll just run it ourselves. And everybody in the room said, can we come? And he went, yeah, I've just got to win lotto first. So for us, looking at the more regional communities, they had this community spirit, they had that social backing. What they lacked was services. And then when you looked into the metropolitan sites where we did our consultations, they had the services and the support. But what they said they lacked was that community connectedness and feeling the support of the people around them that weren't service providers. So the key areas that were highlighted from these consultations were stigma and understanding. People felt that there was still a stigma around dementia and that not everybody had a sound understanding of what it means, which I think in this industry is something that we often forget. We are living, eating and breathing this, and you sometimes can't see the wood for the trees. So to be able to hear that from people not in that situation was a really big eye-opener for us. Improved transport. I've got your thing, Colleen. Support for families, better services, social clubs, business awareness. I'm just going to say Medicare. Physical environment and healthcare. Those were the 8 outcomes that we were able to group all of the things that the 364, I think it was, people we consulted with. That's what we grouped them into. And we produced the report there that you can see on the left-hand side. That report was essentially my crowbar to go then and approach local governments, to approach communities, to see what they would like to do to be a part of this project. And again, we're talking about partnerships. My level of expertise is in dementia friendly communities, and I want to work with anybody who's got 5 minutes to hear me do my song and dance. So they're the specialists in local government, they're the specialists in community care, they're the specialists in our social groups, sporting groups. Our pilot sites, we had 3 local governments in our pilot sites. That was the city of... There we go. Wanneroo, Bunbury and Rockingham. And this is in our phase 1. Phase 1 also had 10 community pilot sites. So that was Mundijong Library, the Fremantle and Perth WA Museum sites, Bunbury Library and Museum, Albany Library, Geraldton Museum and Library, the QE2 Senior Centre, Armidale Police Station, and I think those community sites were able to really, at a grassroots level, have a look at what they were doing for people living with dementia. How could they support autonomy? And we were then given further funding by the Department of Local Governments and Communities to go into a phase 2. So what that looks like is taking this same process and taking it out to the regions, looking at those from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. How does that translate to those people? A lot of those cultures don't have a word for dementia, let alone a sound understanding to be able to support the people. And so we are looking also at developing resources and structures to support that in those environments. Now, I can kind of hear everyone going, okay, that's really great, but how does that relate to us? How does that relate to the community care sector? Technology. I like to think of it as a ripple effect. There's also the butterfly effect, all of those kind of metaphors. But for me, you drop a stone in the dementia pond and these ripples appear. You have knowledge and understanding. What do people know? What are their limits? What are their challenges? You then have the care and support of that, of those people living with dementia. And then you have the community, which encompasses all of the below. So whether you are living in your own home, which 70% of people living with dementia are, or whether they're accessing services, or whether they're in residential care, they're still a part of the community. And I think, as Rhonda stated, we're creating a community of interest. So I think everybody deserves to give 5 minutes to people with dementia to allow them that community of interest. I think when you're looking at all of these pilot sites that are included in this program, there's a partnership there. If, for example, the City of Belmont and the City of Armidale have come on as partners in this second phase, if you have a facility or if you have a social group or a social structure in one of those areas, there's a link there to local government and there is support there and there are connections to be made that can allow greater growth of not only your groups, but also empowerment and autonomy for those people living with dementia who access those groups. So I think we need to perhaps think outside of the square and what partnerships are there to be made? Yes, we've got limited time. Yes, we have limited resources, but is that a big enough barrier or a big enough challenge to keep us in our own little square? Possibly not. I know for a fact that local governments, I deal a lot with community development and inclusion, and those guys have got a lot of portfolios on their plate. They don't only have seniors, but they often have youth, they often have disadvantage, they often have disability. So they've got a lot of portfolios, yet when I sit down with them and start talking about dementia-friendly communities, they start saying to me, oh, this is something that doesn't just fit with our seniors portfolio. This is something that could be spread. This is something that we can actually put across the entire... Would you mind meeting with my management team? Because I'd really like them to hear what you're telling me right now. And so I sit down and I talk with the management team and they say, right, okay, yeah, this is bigger than just this one portfolio. So I think if we take that approach and we look at how we can, as a little social centre who is in Belmont, knowing that the City of Belmont is behind this movement, knowing that they are wanting to create a dementia-friendly community, how can we tap into that? What resources does the City of Belmont have? What can they offer us? They've got a library. They've got the Oasis Centre. Okay, so are we utilising the library? No, we're not. They've got some great books, resources, puzzles, things that we could get engaged in. The library also has volunteer opportunities. We've got some people that really love organising stuff in our social group. Maybe we'll get them to volunteer at the library. It's all possible if you think outside the square. And... call me a crazy purple-haired lady, but I'm a little bit creative and I love stepping outside that square because that's when possibilities happen, that's when culture happens, and that's when communities happen. And that's when you can make real connections with people living with dementia and people who are caring for those people living with dementia. So, look at this. I used smart art for all those people in the room who are tech savvy. I'm not. So what we're looking at now is a flow and effect. I've said before that we've got this ripple that happens once we, dementia isn't an isolated case, it's not within a square. But what we do have is when we're able to create a dementia-friendly community and we're able to talk and we're able to communicate effectively to the entire community, we can have an aware community. And if the community is aware at all levels, starting from local government and working its way through the community and I guess ending with the buck stops here at the people living with dementia, they have a raised awareness and education, and this leads to an inclusive community. This leads to the City of Armidale saying, right, well, we have a Minnewarra festival and we have a plan to make sure that everybody can access that. It's an access all areas event. And I say, okay, do you have someone living with dementia sitting on your access panel? Oh, no. Are you aware of the community support groups and the services that are available in the City of Armidale? Have you advertised to them that this event is going to be an Access All Areas event? Oh, no. So, if I'm, promoting to these people and allowing them that courage and that strength to reach out, what I would love is for it to come from the ground up as well. So if you're contacting the City of Armidale saying, hey, guess what? We've actually got a centre in the City of Armidale and we've heard that you're doing some dementia-friendly work. We're just wondering, can we support you in any way? Is there anything that we can do? And I'm sure Wendy Hill, the lovely Community Development Engagement Officer at the City of Armidale, won't mind me using her name. Wendy will say yes. She is absolutely on board 100%. And I think if we're able to make these connections, it then leads to an engaged community. It's not just one or two people. It is a whole community that is engaged with a project. And if a whole community is engaged with a project, then the longevity and sustainability of the project is going to increase. And it also supports autonomy and includes everyone in the community. So there's often this divide of community care and residential care and then the actual community. For me, the community includes all of those things. They're not separate identities. They're all in one little community basket. And I think that if we're able to include the awareness and inclusive activities, it's going to give, it's going to give really great autonomy and allow these people who are accessing community services to stay in the community for a lot longer. And like Colleen was saying, it's going to promote that choice and give them the courage and the confidence to remain autonomous. And of course, the people living positively with dementia are going to be able to engage with opportunities like our next presenter. And I have a fortunate opportunity to work with dementia advocates, and they are a group of people who are so passionate and so engaged with wanting to spread the word about dementia, to educate people, to share their stories. And I think if these people are seen by all, then the community obviously then becomes more engaged. It becomes a personal thing. It becomes part of the culture. It becomes a part of the community. It's not just a textbooked event that has policies and procedures attached. It is a living, breathing thing. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Barry. He is, I've been working with Barry for the past 6 months. He is one of our dementia advocates. Barry was born and raised an Anglo-Indian community in India, and he immigrated to Australia with his family when he was 19 years old. He worked in the electrical engineering field all his working life before retiring from the workforce in 2001 when he was 52. In February 2010, he was first diagnosed as having younger onset dementia after various scans and tests. He has a wife, Susan, 2 children and 4 grandchildren, and he boasts to have been blessed with a very close-knit family who support and uphold his autonomy. So please welcome Barry to the stage.
Thanks, Althea, for that. Thank you, everyone, especially the organizers of this wonderful event. It's great to be here and to have been given the opportunity to share my story. I hope I'm not going to bore you, but normally I would just talk without any notes, but I just don't have enough time given to me to be able to do that. So I'm going to have to refer to my notes. Sean, wherever you are, where are you? I can't see you. He's gone, is he? Oh, all right. Sorry, Sean. But, that welcome to the country was terrific. I mean, it really gave me goosebumps, and I've still got the goosebumps. I haven't been able to get rid of it. So hopefully I'll be able to present my talk. You know what I mean? So, as Althea said, I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 6.5 years ago. Before that, I was an electrical engineer, working in the automation field where I worked in breweries, dairies, and a lot of big plants that had automated their plants for them so that they could get extra production out. I enjoyed every minute of my working life because it kept me up to date with the latest in technology, and I've always been a soak for technology, and I love my working life. However, in 2000, December 2000, when I was 51 years old, I had a massive heart attack, and my cardiologist told me that, look, I think you better give up this job. You've got a highly stressful job. You're organizing people. You need to give it up and find something simpler to do. So I ended up retiring from the electrical engineering industry, and I then took up day trading in shares. Now, that was wonderful. I did that for about 5 years. I was extremely successful with that. I only traded one share. I got to know that share inside out, and I could tell every morning what's going to happen to that share, whether it's going up and down. I only needed a spread of 12 cents in that share for me to make my plan. I've always worked with plans, and I had a plan. And if I made that plan, I walked away, took my money for the day, and I kept my share plan. Didn't mean I always had every day, but I had a business plan that took me through a week. And I gradually started to increase my business plan, and I was working really well and enjoying it until it took about a week. Over a period of about a week, I have three screens in front of me on my desk, and I do my trading through that. And then suddenly I noticed within a week that something's gone wrong. I couldn't commute. I couldn't remember the price I bought the share at, and I wasn't able to mentally compute at what I needed to sell it in order to keep up with my business plan. I then found myself writing notes, and I bought this, multiplied by using a calculator, which I hardly ever used in my life, and I always did it mentally. And I knew something was wrong. I went straight to a neurologist. I thought I might have had an aneurysm or a tumor in my head, and I said to him, something's wrong. He said, look, we'll send you for an MRI, a PET scan. First he sent me an MRI, and it said, you got Alzheimer's. He said, no, but I don't believe you have Alzheimer's. The way you're talking to me, you don't have it. Let's send you for a PET scan, and that will be definitive. He sent me for a PET scan, and it said Alzheimer's. He says, look, I don't know what to say. I said, don't tell me you don't know what to say. You need to tell me how long am I going to be before I become a vegetable. I've got a brilliant brain. I've been blessed with a good brain. And the last thing I want to see is my brain deteriorate. So tell me, how long have I got? I said, be honest with me. I don't want to. He said, well, usually it's 6 to 9 years. That hit me with a ton of bricks, like a ton of bricks. I just walked away from his surgery, and I thought, this is it. How can I go through life being in this state? So that did really knock the hell out of me. I was devastated. And then the other thing that really there was nothing available for me. I could not get any drugs that were available because I had high cognitive scores. And I was on heavy blood thinners because I've got 6 stents in my heart as a result of this heart attack. So there was no medication available to me. Next thing, there's trials, lots of trials around. I went around to the various people that were running these research trials, did some preliminary tests, and they said, you can't do the trials for, again, 2 reasons. One is your cognitive scores are coming up very high, and 2, your blood thinners, you're on blood thinners. So I have not been able to get onto any trials up till today. So here am I having to sit back, watch myself die, and it's been 6 years, but I'm not going to let it go. I put things in place to keep myself going, and here are some of the things that I put in place to make sure that I don't die in 6 or 8 years, right? Of Alzheimer's anyway. I might die of something else, but won't be Alzheimer's, okay? So some of the things I put in place is I stay extremely positive, or I try and stay extremely positive. I try not to entertain negativity. That's something that I try my best not to entertain negativity. So I'm an extremely positive type of person, always been all my life. And so some of the things that I do is I volunteer with Southcare. Anyone from Southcare here? No, they're the large caring organization, a wonderful organization. And I've worked in their office, and I'm helping them with their quality assurance. That was one of my fortes before. So I do their quality assurance for them, and they've got an audit coming up next month. So I'm making sure I digitize all their records. So instead of having it in folders for each patient, I've digitized it for them and put it on screen so they can go onto it, and all their MSDS forms and everything are all digitized. So I've done all this, and I feel good about the fact that it's a win-win situation. It's a win situation for me because I feel wanted, and I feel that I'm still able to do these things, and it's a win situation for them because they've got someone to help them with their work. So The other thing I do is I go to the Friendshipping Club, Alzheimer's, through the Alzheimer's Association. Quickly, I think most of you would know what that is. It's mixing with other Alzheimer's people and going on outings, which I love, and it's and going out and having a lunch, and I try and motivate these other Alzheimer's people to let them know and say, look, you need to set yourself some goals, stay positive, and things will be good for you. So that's my message which has been. As Althea said, I am an advocate for the Alzheimer's Association. I've been around and given talks similar to this to various groups. I've spoken to a group of medical students from UWA. I've spoken to a group of pharmaceutical students from, where was that from, Althea? From Kirtle University, and a group of carers. So I tell everyone my story, and the reason is I want people like yourselves to know, and I'll touch on that later on, but that don't box Alzheimer's people into boxes. We all have ability, and we're able to contribute to the community. I've been in the Lions Club for 9 years, been the president of the Lions Club for 2 years while I had Alzheimer's, ran that association, and we did a lot of good work in the community. It was so interesting to see young kids with a brand new bike, or a little boy come in with a little iPad that we've given them, and parents saying, look, he's never spoken before, but now he talks to us through his iPad. So these are very encouraging things that have helped me to give back to the community. I do a lot of computer work. My computer is my best friend. I spend a lot of time and effort with my computer. And some of the things that I do with my computer is I do all the finances of my house, have always been done, and I control the investments that I have. We've gone, now that I've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, we go on a lot of holidays, my wife and myself and my family. And I enjoy going on holidays because we meet new people, see new places, and meet a lot of good people who we have made lasting friendships and relationships with them, and stay connected with them through Facebook and other social media. The other thing that I do with computers is I have spent the last 3 years researching my family history. I have over 2,000 names in my family tree now, and it's growing, and it's growing fast. It's now become an addiction to me because I want to find out. So not only do that, so I go out and help people start their family tree and get them started, and I see the brightness in their eyes that this is something that they'd like to do. Now, the other thing I've done, again, with computers is in the last 4 years, I've digitized over 600,000 government records, that's births, deaths, and registering, which are all handwritten. I decipher them, digitize them, put them on the internet for people who want to do their family research and things like that. So that's kept me going. So, and the main thing that I have is since I've retired, I've always had a keen interest in world economics. Every night I get on I got to know what's happening around the world in economics, because I am interested in, interested in money, okay? So, but I want to know what's going to happen around there that's going to affect the money that I have, okay? So I have a great interest in world economics, and I keep myself up to date with what's going on. And I'll tell you what, the best thing that's ever happened in the last few months, 15 months or so, is the American elections. That's the most entertaining thing I have ever seen. It keeps me smiling. I enjoy it. And I'll tell you what, unfortunately, it's all going to end today. Yes. You know? And what am I going to do after that? You know what I mean? Who knows? You know, well, I'll tell you what, it's the most, sorry. Yeah, it's been really exciting. Now, sorry? Okay. I'll just be quickly, just some pointers as to what I think U.S. carriers should be doing. And one is to make sure that you don't treat every Alzheimer's patient as, you know, the majority of them, you know. Let them have their say, let them be able to, they all can contribute something to society. So just remember that. And I have great faith in God and myself, and I try to remain positive, as I said, and I don't entertain negativity. I believe everything in life happens for a reason, and that the future lies with dreamers and not with cynics. And I'd like to end this, and thanks very much for giving me this opportunity.